Have you ever wondered why the Canon RF 10-20mm f4 image stabilized STM has such sharp corners, even when you're holding it handheld? Well, Canon designed this lens around a very specific optical principle, and then they put a patent on it. Today we're diving into the blueprint behind the RF 10-20mm to show you exactly how Canon solved a very real stabilization problem, a problem that's been bothering us since the beginning of time. We'll break it down for you step by step, from the problem that Canon set out to solve to the precise maths behind the solution, and how it all shows up in a lens that you might already own. But before we start casually chatting about off-axis ray geometry like it's some new small talk at the pub, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Come on, it only takes you a second. It's absolutely free, and it really does help this channel grow. And it also lets the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy sarcasm, optics, and watching Canon's engineering team explain how they push things to the brink, one patent at a time. In Canon Patent Application JP 2025-089-511, filed on January the 16th, 2023, and published June the 6th, 2025, Canon claims to provide a zoom lens having excellent optical performance, even at the time of vibration proof in spite of a small size. Okay, translation, and I get it, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but we're taking engineering speak that's been proofed by lawyers, written in Japanese, and machine translated to English. Simply what Canon's going after here is they're trying to make a wide-angle zoom lens that's both small and sharp. And that pretty much fits in with a lot of patent applications that we've seen over the past couple of years, making them lighter, smaller, reducing the number of components, while also improving the optics. But this patent application gives us something a little bit different that we see in the 10-20mm, and that it still stabilizes effectively. But there is a catch. When shooting with ultra-wide lenses, anything wider than a 100-degree field of view, the corners move more than the center when the camera shakes. Canon illustrates this in Figure 2a, which shows image shift caused by angular shake. Figure 2b then shows what happens when in-body image stabilization tries to fix it. The result? Well, the center sharpens up nicely, but the corners, well, they still have a bit of a dance. This happens because of the sensor shift is calibrated to the center. But as you move away from the center, the geometry begins to break down, and the corrections become inaccurate. And that leftover motion blur around the edges is what Canon calls residual image blur. And it's especially bad on full-frame lenses, where the field of view is even wider. And for us videographers, we know this as the ibis wobble, which pretty much ruins any footage. While you might tolerate it to some degree if you have to, it's the only leftover B-roll you have. To some people watching, it can actually induce a bit of nauseousness, which is not a good thing. Now, Canon's solution is both clever and precise. They didn't just change how the image stabilization lens groups move. They changed how they're placed inside of the lens. The zoom lens L0 includes the first lens unit, L1, which has a negative refractive power. The rear lens group, LR, well, it includes several subgroups. The image stabilization unit, which has a negative refractive power and moves orthogonally. The aperture stop, the focus group, positioned on the object side of the image stabilization. But the real innovation is where the stabilization sits. And this is where Canon came up with some maths to solve the problem. 0.4 is less than DISW over DSPW, which is less than 0.8. DISW, that represents the distance from the aperture stop to the front of the image stabilizer. DSPW, well, that represents the distance from the aperture stop to the image plane. By carefully tuning these ratio, Canon ensures several things. One is that the image stabilizer isn't so close to the aperture that it becomes, well, pretty much useless, and not so far away that it needs to be the size of, well, a drinks coaster. If DISW over DSPW is too small, the lens can't blur in the corners. And if DISW over DSPW is too large, the lens gets bulky and aberrations increase. And by carefully tuning the variables in this ratio, Canon ensures several things. The stabilizer isn't so close to the aperture that it becomes, well, pretty much useless. And it's not so far away that it needs to, well, be the size of a drinks coaster at your local pub. Now, if DISW over DSPW is too small, the lens can't blur in the corners. And if DISW over DSPW is too large, well, then the lens gets bulky and aberrations increase. Canon's layout shows the stabilizer placed right in the sweet spot. It lets the image stabilization correct off-axis light rays more effectively. It means sharper corners, less residual blur, and a lens that's compact enough to take it anywhere without needing its own luggage tag. The RF 10-20mm f4 L image stabilized STM is the first Canon lens to use this strategy, and it's marketed as peripheral coordination image stabilization. Now we know the optical secret behind it. But Canon didn't stop there. They also placed the focus group, or LF, close to the aperture stop. Why? Well, because off-axis rays are smaller in that region, which means the focus group can be physically smaller. It requires less travel. And the drive mechanism, well, it can be more compact, and this is key, and this keeps the overall length, try that again, this keeps the overall length of the lens shorter, lighter, and, well, the obvious benefit here is it's still fast and accurate. And that feeds into our value proposition. So what does all this technical fuss mean when you're out shooting? Well, if you're a photographer or filmmaker, and you like to use ultra-wide lenses, like the RF 10-20mm, well, the newer ones at least, this solves a very real-world problem that you probably noticed, even if you didn't know what caused it. It delivers tack-sharp corners while shooting handheld, without that wobbly edge that's often received with traditional in-body image stabilization on full-frame lenses, even if you're using a gimbal or shooting static shots, because the stabilizer is positioned to correct across the entire frame, not just the center. And because the lens is oversized, it balances well on smaller rigs, making it perfect for drone use, travel setups, or not just, well, putting your spine out after a full day of shooting. This patent shows Canon didn't just tweak an old design. They rethought stabilization from the ground up for full-frame wide-angle lenses on full-frame cameras. It's not just a firmware trick. It's a deliberate, precise controlled layout. And they backed it up with some math, geometry, and 7 lens prototypes. So the next time someone says stabilization is just some sort of digital wizardry, you can point them here. Canon's RF 10-20mm f4 L image stabilized STM is the result of a patent-backed redesign that fixed a long-standing flaw in the wide-angle stabilization, giving us that peripheral coordinated IS badge on the box. If you already own this lens, well, good news. You're holding Canon's most optically sophisticated wide zoom in years, if not ever. But if you're still on the fence, you're still deciding, this isn't just a compact landscape lens. It's a stabilization breakthrough hidden in plain sight. But let us know in the comment section down below if you'd like to see more patent applications like this. Or, actually, we're not responsible for the patent applications, but if you would like to see us break them down, what kind of patent applications you want to see more of, sensor design, lenses, camera bodies, let me know in the comment section down below. And a big thanks to all of you for watching this video to the very end. It's very much appreciated. I just want to let you know that right now I'm still checking the prices of camera bodies, lenses, and accessories. And despite all those tariffs that are, well, out there, we're still seeing some really good discounts on camera bodies like the Nikon Z8, the R5, the R5 Mark I and Mark II, as well as various lenses. Although they're not as good as what we saw before Christmas, still, there's a lot on. And if you'd like to go behind the scenes of this channel, you're part of the 1% of the 1% that likes to know what goes on, well then consider clicking that join button and choosing one of the membership levels. We've set up a new membership level that takes you behind the scenes, where you can ask questions and actually get video answers. And we're also playing around with private live streams, where you can actually join the live stream in video format, like we're doing it to the public, giving you a chance to practice and have fun. It really is an awful lot of fun. And if one day you decide you'd like to be part of the expert live guest panel, well, that's an option that's open to you. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great summer. We'll see you again soon.